Hello, everyone. I'm John Fisher of All About the Jersey. Welcome back to Let's Redo the 2015-16 New Jersey Devil season in Eastside Hockey Manager. And I'm happy to tell you that we did it. The goal at the beginning of this whole series was whether or not we want the Devils to make the playoffs or not. The people have voted that they do, and we did. The Devils have qualified for the playoffs after March. That being said, it was a contentious 5 weeks of simulation action. So let's start at the very beginning with respect to why I started this back in February. Sorry, this is the wrong screen. This is the right screen. So I stopped after losing to the Capitals because the trade deadline was coming up. Didn't get a lot of comments as far as any last-minute trades. I will say the AI definitely went haywire with respect to offering trades. For those of you that play the game or are thinking about playing the game, every time there's a rumored deal or a proposed deal in the league, you get an email about it, so you know what's going on. That's how I knew Bobby Ryan was of interest of many of the other AI teams. And yeah, in these 3 days here, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, there were a lot of emails going back and forth. The only suggestions I got were from Lead Hot Zeppelin Pepper that suggested Severson, Kincaid, and Yosefson along with a pick to get Bobby Ryan. That did not work. The Ottawa Senators did not want Keith Kincaid. To that extent, I didn't even bother adding Zaka to the deal. I do agree with the point that you can't buy $10 if we gave out 100, but, you know, it is what it is. Chris Calabrese, his comments stated, it sounds like the AI just doesn't have a ton of value on picks or prospects. At least with the Devils, they don't. His suggestions for Ryan O'Reilly were to try Blackwood, Zajac, and a first for O'Reilly. That did not work. I tried replacing Boucher with Blackwood. But the reason why they rejected it was due to salary. AAtJ, I think, correctly simulates the fact that just because the cap hit is high for a contract, you have to stay under the cap during every day of the season. So therefore, Zajac and, by extension, O'Reilly, not a lot of money gets moved to and from. And since O'Reilly's already under the Sabres are technically under the cap as is. So they kept rejecting it on financial concerns. So O'Reilly did not become a Devil. And Bobby Ryan, he suggested a first for Bobby Ryan straight up, which I tried first. That didn't work. Mateau in a first didn't work. Mateau first and a Zajac didn't work. Basically, everybody, AI and myself, tried to get Bobby Ryan and failed. Ottawa rejected literally every single proposal they got for Bobby Ryan. So what did I do? On the 23rd, I was frustrated with the lack of deals and decided that, knowing that the Devils had an offensive problem, that I went to the trading block, see if there was anybody there, and I found out somebody else on Ottawa was available, and that's the one trade I was able to make. Milan Michalek. He was on the trading block. I asked what Ottawa wanted for them. They wanted a second-round pick. I said, fine, we got Milan Michalek. And then proceeded to lose to the Rangers at a shootout 2-3. That stunk. But the Devils got Michalek, and that was good because in that game on the 23rd, Mike Camilleri fractured his shin and is out for 2 months. So the game decided to turn on the realism and put Camilleri on the shelf. Following that, Yosefson picked up a skate bite, as they call it, and was out for 10 days. So it was a loss, and a loss in terms of personnel. The Devils, Michalek made his debut and scored in his debut, which is good with the Columbus Blue Jackets, but that was a big loss. And that's unfortunate because Columbus and the Islanders, and to a lesser extent Pittsburgh and Carolina, have been on the Devils' heels in the division points-wise. It's a little moot now that the Devils have clinched the playoffs, and I'll show you how that happened. But, you know, dropping a point to the Rangers and then losing straight up to Columbus was not good. Thankfully, blowing out Tampa Bay was a fun watch and a fun game for all involved. Just to quickly look at that, yeah, look at a lot of goals early on, and this makes it kind of close. And then Lusty and Michalek just, you know, put them away. Good times for everybody. Lusty, Henrique, Stepniak, very nice. With Camilleri on the shelf, Lusty and Michalek have been moved to left wing. When Camilleri was around for that one game, Michalek was on the roster. Michalek played right wing. So, you know, the Devils did get stronger at wing. I apologize to all the advisors and commenters, but I had to make a move of some type, and that's how it went. Anyway, let's go to March. March did not start off well. a loss to Carolina that was not fun for everybody involved. Um, just a lot of 6s and 7s, a bunch of 5s here from Colleen and Stepniak. Rucci scored a goal. That was fun. But this was pretty much Carolina's night, and that's not good because, again, Carolina was close to the Devils at the time. The Devils got a big W against Nashville. This was a fun one. Severson was able to slot in a goal. Moore continues to be a power play producer of the team. Boucher has been contributing on the bottom 6, and Mateau has gotten back on the board with an empty. So 4-1 over Nashville, which is good. Then the Devils took on Dallas, who were the best team in hockey, and got bodied 3-0. Just as a point of comparison, when Henry got a point earlier in the week, the game noted that it was his 40th of the season. Ben's goal here, they noted it was his 70th of the season. Just to highlight how offensively powerful both Ben and the Stars are. But Niemi was perfect. Most of the Devils were just kind of there, and the Bens, well, Jamie at least, not Jordy, were very good. Good efforts all around from Dallas, not so much from New Jersey. Fortunately, the Devils pulled out a big win against Pittsburgh. Again, at the time of doing this, because I've been paying attention to the standings, because when I started this video, the Devils were 5 points ahead of the Islanders, but the Islanders had games at hand, and the Islanders are the one team behind the Devils for that third spot in the Metropolitan Division for an automatic playoff spot. And then following just 2 points behind the Islanders was Columbus, followed by Carolina and Pittsburgh. So games against those teams were big games. Thankfully, the Devils were able to pull out a big W despite an early deficit and the fact that Pittsburgh outshot the Devils 31-21. Eliash put in a great individual effort for a goal, even though Mata made it 3-2 on the power play. Mahalik came through, just further justifying that amazing trade for a second-round draft pick to make it 3-3. And then Zajac, of all people, he of the whopping 7 goals and 88 shots in 78 games that he now has, he scored a game winner, and it held up. So great work from them. Green had a real bad night. It was not a good night for a bunch of the defensemen outside of the score sheet, but the Devils pulled through, and this was important because Crosby and Malkin were really on their game. So getting a win over, especially a regulation win over 71 and 87 being so amazing is very good. And then the Devils went on the road trip. They beat up on the Sharks. They beat them up like, well, I don't know how a shark gets beaten up. I guess a whale could beat it up. The point is that the Devils won 4-1. Yosefson actually contributed to something. John Merrill showed up on the score sheet, and Milan Mihalek continued to put in goals in the place of Camilleri. So that was very good. Against L.A., this one was a bit of a heartbreaker. Nick Shore provided a late equalizer. I was hoping the Devils were able to come out of this road trip with 4 points at a minimum. Went to a shootout and, miss, Henrik. I will say, Brian, this is not a mistake. Brian O'Neill I did call him up after Camilleri got injured. I decided not to bring back Steven Giunta, knowing he wasn't going to do anything. Bobby Farnham's actually injured. And I didn't see any of the other younger players doing anything particularly well, like Blake Patella or Blake Coleman, or that's pretty much it off the top of my head. So Brian O'Neill was doing well in Albany. I called him up as a spare in play with Camilleri being out for 2 months, and he got a shootout spot and did not score. What a surprise. But nevertheless, playing against the Kings, did well. Green had a bad night. Larson had a bad night. But Moore had a great night. Mahalik had a good night, and so forth. But, dropped a point in L.A. Well, yeah, dropped a point. And then in Anaheim, unlike real life, sort of like real life, Anaheim just went on to body the Devils. Mateau made it a 3-1, so at least they didn't get shut out. So, yay. I just clicked play-by-play by accident. We don't want to do that. But nevertheless, that was kind of a downer. What was also a downer is that on the 17th, Minnesota basically did the same thing to the Devils in their building. Henry provided a quick response to Fontaine's goal, but Pominville just pulled them away. Not a very good effort for most of the team. A lot of couple 7s, but mostly 6s. Not very good against a team where they have a couple 8s and a 9 or 2. But thankfully, things started to turn around. The Devils finally got back to a automatic playoff spot with a big weekend against Columbus in a home-and-home set. 7-3. You know what? We're looking at the highlights for this one. Let's go to the highlights. We're playing the goals. There we go. Stempniak, he loses it, gets it back, gets the rebound. There you go. 1-0 early on. Henrique breaks out to Lusty. Henrique tosses it to Palmieri. Palmieri gets stopped, and then Palmieri puts in his own rebound. That's a power play goal. Okay, so once again, gets a stop. Oh, Josefson is going to go off for slashing. That's not good. So what's going to happen here? We're going to line up for the draw. And, of course, Johansson, who did not get traded in EHM World, scored a power play goal to make it 2-1. All right, so got a freeze, still in the first period. Josefson's going to take the draw with Boucher and Mateau. Boucher is going to engage. He picks up a loose puck, and then Mateau just bangs one in from in close. Hard-working, dirty goal, etc., etc., etc. 3-1. All right, dump and chase to Palmieri. He picks up Lusty coming in free and 3 down the other end of the slot for a power play goal. Very nice, 4-1. Mateau, he's streaking in. He comes across, passes it across to Josefson. Josefson drops it to Mateau, and Mateau bangs it in. Very nice, 5-1. Mateau again, he is coming down the wing, throws it to Zajac, and Zajac finishes the play for another goal, which is always good to see from Mr. 19, considering his salary. So it's 6-1. It's pretty easy. Yeah, Carlson, not Eric Carlson, the other Carlson, he scores a goal, whatever. John Moore gets bodied, and Ryan Johansson puts in a shorty, which is not good for Mr. Moore there. That's a disappointing occurrence, but it's okay. We're going to send the line back out, send out the second unit. That includes Brian O'Neill because, of course, AI John Hines thinks it's okay to put Brian O'Neill on a power play. Brian O'Neill is still out there, and he scores a power play goal. That's how you get it done. Nothing says blowout when Mr. Brian O'Neill scoring a goal on you at the NHL level. So that's 7-3. That was a big win, again, after 2 losses, technically 3 losses in a row, and it gets the Devils off a little bit ahead of Columbus, obviously ahead of the rest of the pack, to get back into 5th overall in the East. And then the very next night, Sergei Kalinin scores the lone goal, and Stempniak added an empty, and then shortly after the goalie went back into the net, Henrique, made it 3-0. So solid performance all around there. Schneider with a wonderful shutout, John Merrill with a very strong game, and Stempniak played well. And Kalinin, he got a goal, but he got a 6. So his performances haven't been very good, but at least he scored, and that's the important thing. Also important, beating up on Pittsburgh again. I will say that in the middle of these other games, even while the Devils were losing, teams like the Islanders and Carolina and Columbus weren't making too many advances on the Devils as they could have, because teams like Pittsburgh essentially spoiled them, which is very nice to see. And it's also nice because the Devils go on and then beat Pittsburgh, which is, what makes spoiling work. So even though Pittsburgh got ahead in terms of shots, 34-27, Mahalik got an early goal, John Moore got a power play goal, and Jelena threw one in to really seal it. Not an empty, but still a nice goal to seal the game. And he himself had a good game. Schneider was a 10 because he's amazing. Tuomo Ruutu somehow was in the lineup and did not play well. No surprises there. But Mahalik has really looked to be a good pickup so far. I'm jumping ahead a bit, but in the 17 games he's played with the Devils, he's got 10 points, and he's got 38 shots on net, and he's averaging a 7.29. I'm sorry, I know nobody suggested Mahalik. I certainly was just doing it just because I just needed to make a trade for some help on offense, and I'm glad I did it. It's been working out very well. In retrospect, maybe I should have taken some more moves of my own. I don't know. I'm still learning this game myself. Anyway, Capitals, Devils. The very next night, the Capitals, one of the 2 teams ahead of the Devils in the division, they bodied the Devils. Look at this. There were some, the goals in the first period were responded to, but in the second period, they just went away and, never looked back. The Capitals, they're a top team for a reason, and you saw why. So, and unfortunately, this was kind of a downer, losing in overtime to the Hurricanes, especially since for most of the game, the Devils were leading. They got an early goal from Josefson and Stempniak, but Brad Malone and Elias Lindholm provided 2 quick goals in the third period, and then Jeff Skinner, disappointed the Devils on the road. This was a better night for Severson, and a couple guys did have some good games, but even Green had a good game. But, blowing a lead, not good. Fortunately, the Devils got it back on their good foot against Boston. I will say Boston has pretty much they didn't melt down in time for the trade deadline to move all their assets, but they did fire Claude Julien shortly after the trade deadline, and the Devils just took him to task. Andy Green got a goal, Lucy got a goal, Palmieri got a goal, and Stempniak got an empty. This was a very solid win all the way around. Lucy went back to being a 10. Stempniak had a great night. Zajac and Josefson not so strong, but a lot of good numbers up and down the forward lineup, which is always what you want to see. And again, 4-1 is a decisive win. And against Florida, the Devils also put up another decisive performance. So even though shots were even, Boucher got an early goal. Palmieri got a good power play goal to really add to the lead. Bugstad made it interesting late, but Palmieri sealed the deal at the end. But this was another strong night for Schneider, another strong game for Moore, another strong game for Palmieri. Reed Boucher obviously was notable. Mateau was also good again. Stempniak not so good, but it's okay. Some good numbers here. Not so much from Florida. Florida is not as strong as they are in real life. And with that win against Florida, again, the Devils have qualified for the playoffs. That's right. So let's go look at the standings. And the Devils are currently 5th in the East. If the playoffs were to start today, they will play the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings would have home ice advantage in that regard. Actually, no. No, they wouldn't. See, this is stupid. This is going to sound really, really stupid. But thanks to the new designation, I actually forgot what the actual playoff matchup would be. Because I just remembered, wait a minute, the Devils will play in division. They don't do it by 1st versus 8th, 2nd versus 7th, and so forth. They stay within the division. So the Devils would be playing the Capitals first, which either way is not a good matchup. Even if the Capitals pull ahead of the Rangers here, which they certainly could because, they both have 105 points each. All three of these teams have gave the Devils problems all season long in EHM. So, this playoff, goal was met, but it may be a short-lived goal, if that makes any sense. I will say, however, the Devils have easily exceeded what they did in real life. 96 points, and we're 4 games left in the season, so 100 is certainly within striking distance. They still could be jumped by the Islanders in theory. The Islanders do have a game in hand on them, but they're pretty well safe of Columbus. They're definitely safe from Carolina and Pittsburgh. And, the Canadians aren't going to jump them, at all, because look at the lead. It's 96 to 83. The Atlantic has basically been, there's the Lightning, there's Detroit, and then there's everyone else. In the Metropolitan, it's still a big difference, but, it's not as stark. I will say the Flyers being real bad, a lot of teams just picked up a lot of points on them. And the Penguins have been nice enough spoilers over the last few weeks to really prevent Carolina, Columbus, and to an extent the Islanders from moving on up. I will say the Devils' shootout magic has started to fade a little bit, being at 8-6, but they did crack over 200 goals. They still have the best GA in the division, if not the entire East. Actually, no, they have the second lowest in the East. The Lightning have been remarkable with 157 goals allowed. That being said, goal met. Let's look at some stats. Seguin is currently your front runner for the Art Ross Trophy, and probably the Hart Trophy to go with that, unless, the voters really like a certain guy in New Jersey, who I will show off in a moment. You'll notice nobody's highlighted because no Devils are on this top 50 scorers list. If we filter out just forwards, though, no Devils are still on this list. But if we filter out defensemen, John Moore! It's got 51 points! John Moore! Look at this. Look at the power play points. Like, basically, to be a top-scoring defenseman in real life, you do have to have a lot of power play points. But look at this. 27 power play points from John Moore. If John Moore did this in real life, or came anywhere close to this in real life, the posts on All About the Jersey would just be praiseworthy for him. Yeah, he may be leaky on defense. Yeah, he may not be understanding of the whole positioning concept and so forth. But the offense would help make up for that, if that could be translated in real life. Oh well, that's why video games are fun. You can see some stuff that just doesn't happen in real life. Like, I don't know, Matt Niskanen blowing away everybody in terms of points. Like, he's got 63, which is ridiculous. You'd expect, like, I don't know, Erik Karlsson to have that many. I guess the game doesn't respect him as much. He's only got 40. Boo-hoo. Anyway, yeah, so defensemen, those are your point scorers. In terms of wingers, 2 Devils actually do crack the top 50. Palmieri and Lucy both get into the bottom end at 45 and 43 points respectively. Michael Bedker, who was a potential trade target, is actually just right with them. Bobby Ryan, the guy that I and a whole bunch of AI teams really wanted. He's a little higher up on the list. But again, this is Ovechkin's list, and there's everyone else. But the biggest improvement, of course, Corey Schneider. Yeah, Jean-Francois Berube technically has a better save percentage, but Schneider's 929 is not only the best, and it's easily more impressive than everyone else's because look at the games played. That's 78 games played. Everybody. AI John Hines has decided to play Corey Schneider in literally every single game this season. Every game. Back to back. Home and home. 3 games in 4 nights, whatever you want to call it. Good periods, bad periods, so forth, in between. Schneider played every single minute. The only time he wasn't in the net is when he was pulled for an extra skater or there was a delay penalty. So I'd be stunned if Schneider is not, goalie of the year in this game, especially since his average rating among goaltenders is, Holtby has been fantastic. Bishop has been fantastic. A lot of these other guys are fantastic, but 8.08 average is ridiculously good. Which leads me to this question for you, the listener, the watcher, the reader of All About the Jersey. Now that the Devils have clinched a playoff spot, and even though there could be some movement in terms of who the Devils could face, there's 4 games left in the season. Keith Kinkaid has not played a single solitary minute this season. Should I play Keith Kinkaid in any of these 4 games? 2, how many of those 4 games should I play him in? Because you could make the argument that Schneider needs some rest, but the fact of the matter is, if we look at Corey Schneider here, his condition has been 100%. Even after a back-to-back game, like after night 1 and night 2, his condition is still at 100%. The guy just does not get tired. He has not gotten injured. He has not shown any issues in practice. I mean, it's a big reason why the Devils have made the playoffs at all, given the state of their offense. That being said, he's the man. But he could use a break. So if you think Keith Kinkaid should play any games, let me know in the comments to this video, and I will make that happen for the final 4 regular season games. Obviously, in the playoffs, it's going to be Corey Schneider all the way through. In the meantime, here's a quick look at the Devils stats. Moore is your point leader right now. Your goal-scoring leader is Kyle Palmieri, followed by Adam Henrique. Lee Stempniak has continued to be productive. Camilleri, despite the 2-month injury, is still a producer, so to speak, on the team at forward. John Merrill has been very productive with plenty of power play points. Patrick Elias did get to 15 goals. Stefan Matteau surprisingly got to more than 1 with 12. And Reed Boucher, since being called up, has put up 10 goals and 10 assists, which is not bad. Brian O'Neill even, has a couple points in his accomplishments. But Milan Mahalik has been the real revelation here. Again, 17 games, he's got 10 points, he's got 38 shots in net, and he's averaging a 7.29. He's doing the work. He's actually got the second best average rating among all Devils, just behind Lusty and Schneider, respectively. So, in any case, I'm just pretty happy that, for the most part, despite all the suggestions, and I appreciate everybody who has given me suggestions so far throughout the season. I will admit that I did a lot of learning. I didn't know about the value system. I didn't know. I still don't really have a good grasp on what gets the AI to make deals, because in most of these video games, a big flaw with anything that involves an artificial intelligence is that you can capitalize on what you value and understand to be more important than what necessarily the AI values. So to that extent, you could do some really exploitive things, I'm sure, to get the first overall draft pick every time, or, get the top prospect for a bag of pucks for relative purposes and so forth. I'm sure the guys at Sports Interactive and the other people that make EHM and mod EHM and patch EHM try to make it more realistic every year, and I credit them for doing that. But that being said, I guess what I'm trying to say is I still don't understand, what gets a management on another team to trade a top tier player. But even without making the trade for that top tier player, even though the only deals all season were really just bringing up Reed Boucher, calling up guys to replace other guys, getting Milan Mahalik. I will admit I had to drop Jordan Tutu to make that happen, but I don't think anybody misses Jordan Tutu. Definitely not in this game. But other than the Mahalik deal, the Devils really haven't done much of anything other than riding Corey Schneider to greatness, and that was enough to make the playoffs. So good for them. There are 4 games left in the season, so the next video will go over April and their first playoff series. So I thank everybody who provided suggestions for roster moves all season long, or all fake season long, I should say. And hopefully the next video I make is not the last video I have to make for the series. But if it is, it is. And we'll go from there. So again, this is John Fisher at All About the Jersey. Again, this is let's redo the 2015-2016 New Jersey Devils season in Eastside Hockey Manager. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And thank you for reading the site.